If you clicked on this video, I'm gonna guess that you enjoy Monster Hunter. So let me ask you a question. What do you play Monster Hunter for? Maybe it's the engaging combat, monster designs, or using it as a multiplayer game to spend time with friends. Veteran hunter or rookie to the series, there's something that keeps you coming back. Well, I play Monster Hunter to experience the gameplay loop that Capcom basically perfected since the very beginning. Hunt a cool monster, craft weapons and armor that are based on that monster, receive dopamine, and repeat. In fact, a friend of mine and I try to craft every large monster armor set in each game we play. Even though Wilds has done a lot to evolve the series in a positive way, they've gone backwards in some aspects. Obviously, no game is perfect, and although it happened slower than everyone would have liked, Capcom did eventually address the performance issues in Wilds, amongst other concerns as well, like balancing weaker weapons. What happens though when one of the core pieces of Monster Hunter's identity becomes sacrificed for artificial gameplay and random chance? This video is going to hone in on exactly that. Two problems brought on by randomized weapons and weapon upgrades in Monster Hunter, and a solution that is already built into the game. So let's start with how RNG weapons blemish the Monster Hunter identity. Artian weapons aren't the first offender of RNG weapons in Monster Hunter. However, it's absolutely become the straw that broke the camel's back. These weapons became the most negative aspect of Wilds for me, since it devolves our weapons in Monster Hunter into menus and random chance. RNG weapons not only take away from the identity of Monster Hunter's gameplay loop, but it diminishes both crafted monster weapons and this whole weapon tree. This entire tree is reduced to temporary fluff the moment that you can craft one Artian weapon. Instead of hunting monsters for materials to craft specific weapons, we now hunt monsters for a chance at materials that we can use to upgrade our weapons to hope for the correct upgrades. The excitement no longer happens during or at the end of a hunt. It happens back at base in menus. This is a huge deal for me, because once you replace weapon crafting with weapon gambling, you change what playing Monster Hunter feels like at a fundamental level. Gogmazios, one of the fan-favorite monsters brought back in Title Update 4, added Gogma Artian weapons, which fully doubled down on the RNG aspect of these weapons. Which, hey, it's fun to use strong weapons. I just wish there was more to it than mindless rerolling. I'm not saying randomness isn't to be expected or shouldn't be in the game. I just think there's enough RNG already to go around. Depending on which entry in the series that you're looking at, there's either random charms or random decorations included as an endgame system, even though our community still can't seem to get on the same page as to which one is worse. Monster Hunter Wilds, by the way, has both RNG charms and decorations, on top of the full-blown slot machine system of Artian weapons. Maybe I'm just becoming less and less of the target audience here, because these weapons are simply not fun to engage with, and turning in monster materials to get the ore, the currency for upgrading Artian weapons, is also hilarious to me. It's the perfect example of how low monster materials and crafted monster weapons have fallen. The game is literally asking you to throw unique materials that you gathered by hunting a monster directly into the trash for some generic resource in order to make your weapon. Here's an example of endgame weapon systems that are done right. Weapon augments. These were introduced back in 4 Ultimate as weapon honing. Weapon augments help by adding a layer of complexity to weapons without bogging the whole system down. You simply use monster materials to unlock the ability to add specific upgrades or benefits onto a weapon. Health regen on hit, extra attack or affinity, sharpness increases, and so on. Now, 4 Ultimate also had relic weapons as random drops, but thankfully, crafted weapons, from what I can remember, were still the go-to for G rank and beyond. Deviant weapons in GU are another variation of a weapon system that I think is handled well. These were more about a consistent grind over random chance. You had to complete a progressively difficult chain of quests to craft and upgrade a deviant's weapon or armor. you still needed specific monster materials, but that's the expected grind in Monster Hunter. The randomness should stay consistent through monster materials and rare drops from hunting monsters. Thankfully, back to Wilds, crafted armor sets are still untarnished. In fact, Arch-Tempered Arkfeld is a great example of a fantastic monster with an even better armor set. After hunting and carting to AT Arkfeld, I kept thinking how nice it would feel to replace my Gogma Artian weapon with an AT Arkfeld crafted one that had weapon augments. And it hit me, why don't we have Gamma weapons alongside their respective armor sets? These Gamma armor sets from Arch-Tempered monsters started in World, and now with Wilds, we have a pattern developing. Gamma armor sets always seem to be paired with some kind of RNG weapon system. Let's use RuneScape as an analogy. RuneScape is a game based entirely on grinding, and it's incredibly beloved and popular. Because all you need is a strong enough why behind the grind, and it suddenly doesn't matter how simple that game is. RuneScape has a deceptively complex rabbit hole that you can go down into, which is fantastic for those who want it. At its core though, it's a simple game where number go up equals brain happy. Monster Hunter is one of those games that is meant to be grindy. Receiving a full-blown weapon as a random drop to then have the grind be re-rolling the upgrades on that weapon feels like the opposite of what the series should be doing. It's not like Artian weapons are the only type of grind in Wilds. There's obviously a weapon tree for each weapon with beautifully designed weapons, blowing World out of the water in this regard. And you need to craft these weapons all throughout low rank and part of high rank. My point is, why are we just giving this up shortly after reaching high rank? Whatever happened to crafted monster weapons being enough? Even if you just gave us a different version of the weapon tree that unlocks at endgame. Let me craft whichever cool weapon I want based on a specific monster, and then for an endgame grind, let me do stuff to that weapon. Iceborne eventually got this right, with weapon augments and Fatalis weapons being the usual favorite for endgame builds. Sunbreak also had weapon augments, and an endgame that involved actually needing to hunt the entire roster of monsters again. Which sounds like a grind. And it is. The difference is that is exactly the type of grind Monster Hunter players sign up for. So why not just stop at weapon augments? Better yet, why have these RNG-filled weapon systems at all? It's just artificially extending playtime, which simply makes the grind lifeless. Oh man. Kol Taroth and Safi Jiva. Some of the best designed monsters in World and Iceborne with some of the most RNG-filled weapon systems in the series. When KT first came out, there was so much excitement. Multiple lobbies hunting one monster over the course of multiple hunts with some really well done set pieces and great rewards. Oh, you thought you could craft these weapons? No. Kol Taroth weapons were just randomly rewarded to you as unidentified materials that you then appraised at the smithy. We're talking 10 or more weapons per weapon type, most of which you didn't want. So while you may be used to farming the same monster in Monster Hunter to chase a weapon that you were wanting, you now just had to get lucky enough to obtain the one you wanted. The excitement from grinding in this series should be within the hunt itself, specifically at the end when you're victorious over a monster and can start carving it, hoping for a gem. Now the excitement is supposed to be in menus, hoping to get lucky. A year after Kol Taroth came Safi Jiva, a fully mature Xenojiva from base World. And again, this fight was phenomenal. Safi Jiva was intimidating with a fantastic design both as a monster and its equipment. Thankfully, the reward system was slightly better. Safi Jiva weapons were still appraised from random materials, although you were guaranteed at least one of the appraised materials to be your equipped weapon. Safi's loot table was less bloated, you had some control over the RNG for weapon upgrades, and had the benefit of being fully unique weapon designs. Unlike KT, which just spray painted gold onto the infamous slapstick weapons of World. Did you catch that? there's another bigger flaw here. RNG weapons all end up looking and feeling the same. The feeling you get when you can finally flex full Fatalis armor and weapons in Iceborne, or getting a strong mixed set in GU, or maybe those afflicted materials in Sunbreak to max out your gear. It's so satisfying. There's a progression there that you can appreciate. That is Monster Hunter. On the other hand, you'd barely remember the hunt that ultimately rewarded you with an RNG weapon you've been going after, because you're not hoping for that ruby or mantle to drop from a carve, or a reward screen at the end of a hunt, or a tail that you fought so hard to cut. Instead, it's just a slot machine where in the end, you find yourself questioning the point of pulling the lever. Dopamine? A series like Monster Hunter doesn't need cheap hits of dopamine. It has the good stuff already baked in. Monster Hunter games get compared a lot to the Souls series, and for good reason. There's a similar rush of dopamine you get after defeating a monster or a boss that you've really been struggling with. And while rare loot is also an aspect of Souls games, it's like what I mentioned before about gems. Monster Hunter is designed around carving monsters for their materials and hoping you get that 1% or 2% chance drop to finally craft a weapon or an armor piece. Now, I'm not necessarily advocating for infinitely small drop rates. What I am wanting when I play Monster Hunter is a bit of that rush when chasing after a specific monster material, because I know that that material is going to become a new hammer or a new greatsword that I can then use to hunt this other monster that has a longsword I want, or maybe a cool set of armor, and so on. That is the Monster Hunter experience that hooked me, and unfortunately, Wilds pushes the series further away from that than I'd like. So I would be remiss to not mention layered weapons. The whole fashion is the true endgame thing that you may see all over the internet across different games is a genuine thing. Players want to make their characters look awesome. So, layered weapons and armor in Monster Hunter is a great feature to have. It adds quite a lot to both the endgame and player expression. Layered weapons should be a fun way to customize your look, not be used as a band-aid for an over-reliance on RNG weapons as an endgame system. Okay, after all that ranting about RNG weapons, here's my solution. And the idea is not unique to me. It's already in the game. Allow weapons to be transcended just like armor pieces. We can already transcend lower rarity armor pieces to bring them up to par with stronger armor. This not only increases their max defense, it also adds more slots onto each piece. This way, our crafted weapons in Master Rank can maybe have full 9 slots just like Artian weapons do. You don't even need to adjust attack values, affinity, element, or sharpness all that much. That would help, of course, but so much of the power from Artian weapons comes from having 3 triple slots for decorations. If you add in strong enough weapon augments on top of that, and suddenly I think you have crafted weapons that can rival Gogma Artian weapons. The expansion is a chance for a reset. There's no need to add any of this into base Wilds. That ship has already sailed. In fact, if it were up to me, I would say give Artian weapons the Rampage treatment. Leave them in base Wilds where it belongs. And for those of you that don't mind Artian weapons, or you just enjoy them, hey, you're allowed to like them. All I'm saying is that I think it's time for the crafted weapon enjoyers to have some fun again. Overall, I feel that Monster Hunter Wilds has ended on a high note. Title Update 4 and beyond has honestly been fantastic, both gameplay and performance-wise. The foundation is laid for an expansion that could be as well received as Iceborne or Sunbreak. There's just this sense that I can't shake that the expansion will continue to take Wilds down a path that will further strip the elements that cultivate the Monster Hunter experience that we're all craving. So, selfishly, I have to ask, can we please go back to crafted weapons having longevity in Master Rank? Or at the very least, have crafted weapons compete with whatever RNG weapon system that will probably get added anyway. Wilds is coming to a close. That means we're reaching the point in the Monster Hunter lifecycle where everyone is going to start to go back to previous entries in the series to inevitably compare what those games did better than the current release. Rise and Sunbreak are going to be getting their well-deserved flowers, and World is already becoming nostalgic for people because, yeah, World came out 8 years ago. Going back to older games is always a treat with this series, but in doing that, it exposed something that I can't shake off. Wilds just doesn't totally feel like Monster Hunter, at least not yet. Looking at Rise, World, and even older games like Try, we know that expansions tend to assist in elevating these games into true Monster Hunter experiences. Wilds just feels like it's too different, too streamlined for that to happen. If you can't already tell, I love Monster Hunter, and I definitely burned out on the series before Wilds even came out last year. Despite any issues Wilds may have, Capcom has been on a generational run for years now. Let's just hope that they can maintain this current momentum with Wilds and release a masterwork of an expansion. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope I was able to provide you some entertainment. I love reading the comments, so feel free to join in on the discussion below about RNG weapons or simply what you would rate Wilds. More Monster Hunter content is on the way. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day.
Lizard, 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 lizard.